between the waters. Imagine, if you will, a tableau etched in the very bedrock of human memory. Not merely a historical account, but a primal scene, a moment where the very fabric of reality seems to tear, revealing the divine hand at work. Picture a people, their backs bearing the scars of generations of servitude, their eyes reflecting the dust and despair of a life lived under the lash. They stand, a ragged multitude, at the precipice of an abyss. Before them, a vast, churning expanse of water, an ocean of uncertainty, a liquid wall that seems to mock their desperate yearning for freedom. Behind them, the thunder of hooves, the glint of steel, the relentless advance of the Pharaoh's chariots. The air crackles with the dread of imminent annihilation. It is a vise of fear, a claustrophobic dread that squeezes the very breath from their lungs. They are caught, suspended between impossible choices, each a descent into a different form of death. To turn back is to embrace the familiar chains of slavery, to surrender to the tyranny they had so desperately sought to escape. To press forward is to plunge into the unknown, to risk being swallowed by the very waters that promise a different kind of oblivion. This is not merely a story of ancient Israelites. It is a story of all humanity, a reflection of the fundamental human condition. We are all, in our own ways, standing at the edge of impossible waters, facing the chariots of our own fears, our own limitations, our own self-imposed bondages. We find ourselves caught in the liminal space, the between, where the old world threatens to reclaim us, and the new world seems a treacherous, uncharted sea. Consider the refugees who, in our own time, brave perilous journeys across treacherous seas, seeking a sanctuary they may never find. Their faces, etched with the same desperation as those ancient Hebrews, tell a tale of human endurance and the relentless pursuit of hope. Their plight is a stark reminder that the drama of the Red Sea is not confined to the pages of history. It plays out in the present, a tragic echo of the ancient struggle. Or think of the sacred ritual of baptism, the immersion into water that symbolizes death to the old self and rebirth into a new life. It is a reenactment of the Red Sea crossing, a personal passage through the waters of transformation. The baptismal font becomes a miniature Red Sea, a place where the believer, like the Israelites, leaves behind the chains of sin and enters into the promise of divine grace. And what of the survivors of natural disasters, those who have faced the fury of floods and storms, who have seen their world swept away only to emerge, battered but unbroken, into a new reality? Their stories are testaments to the resilience of the human spirit, a testament to the power of hope to rise from the depths of despair. They too have crossed their own Red Seas. The crossing of the Red Sea is not just a miracle, it is a paradigm, an archetypal moment of divine intervention. It speaks to a fundamental truth, that in the face of insurmountable obstacles, in the depths of our despair, there is a possibility of a way where there seems to be no way. It is a revelation of God's power to make the impossible possible, to open a path through the very barriers that threaten to destroy us. But this miracle is not merely a display of divine might. It is a call to faith, a demand that we trust in a power greater than ourselves, even when all seems lost. It is an invitation to step into the unknown, to venture into the waters, trusting that a path will be made, that salvation will be granted. Why does this story resonate across cultures and centuries? Because it speaks to the deepest longings of the human heart, the yearning for liberation, the hope for redemption, the desire to break free from the chains that bind us. It speaks to the universal experience of being caught between the past and the future, between despair and hope, between death and life. The Red Sea is not just a geographical location, it is a spiritual landscape. It is the place where God reveals His power, where human faith is tested, and where salvation is won. It is the place where the impossible becomes possible, where the waters of chaos become the path to freedom. It is the place where we discover that the true miracle is not just the parting of the waters, but the courage to step into them, trusting that God will lead us through. This ancient story, therefore, is not a relic of the past, but a living testament to the enduring power of faith. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, even when we stand at the edge of the abyss, there is hope. There is a path through the sea. There is a promise of salvation. And it is in this moment, suspended between the waters, that we encounter the divine and discover the true meaning of liberation. The biblical narrative. Let us approach the text of Exodus not as a mere historical chronicle, but as a sacred landscape, a terrain where the divine and the human intersect in a moment of profound revelation. We often conjure images of sweeping cinematic grandeur, of waters towering like crystal walls, but the scriptural account, in its stark simplicity, speaks with a more resonant power. It is a narrative stripped of embellishment, a story that lays bare the raw vulnerability of a people caught between the jaws of annihilation. The journey begins with a perplexing command: turn back. These words, seemingly illogical, are the first brushstrokes of divine strategy. God, in His inscrutable wisdom, directs Moses to lead the Israelites into a cul-de-sac, a place where the path forward is blocked by the sea, and the path backward leads to the waiting chariots of Pharaoh. It is a deliberate setting of the stage, a carefully orchestrated moment of crisis. Pharaoh will think they are wandering in confusion. These words uttered by God reveal a divine understanding of human perception. The Lord, in His omniscience, anticipates the calculations of human power, the logic of human strategy. He knows that Pharaoh, seeing the Israelites trapped, will interpret their predicament as weakness, as a sign of divine abandonment. And in this miscalculation, this human arrogance, lies the seed of Pharaoh's undoing. But what appears to be a strategic blunder, a tactical error, is in fact a revelation of divine purpose. I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army. This is the heart of the narrative, the core of its theological significance. The Red Sea crossing is not merely a story of human deliverance. It is a theophany, a manifestation of God's glory, a demonstration of His sovereignty over the forces of the world. It is a moment where the divine will is revealed through the very instruments of human opposition. Here we encounter a profound paradox. God's glory is revealed not in the absence of conflict, but in the midst of it. It is in the very crucible of human suffering, in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, that the divine power shines forth. God does not bypass the trials of His people. He transforms them into moments of revelation, into opportunities for His glory to be made manifest. Now let us turn to the enigmatic phrase, Yam Su. Traditionally rendered as Red Sea, its literal meaning, Sea of Reeds, opens a window into the geographical and theological complexities of the narrative. Scholars have proposed a multitude of locations, each with its own merits and challenges. The Gulf of Suez, the Bitter Lakes, the Mediterranean coastal marshes. Each site offers a different perspective on the event, a different interpretation of the miracle. But while the geographical debate is intellectually stimulating, it often risks obscuring the deeper spiritual significance of the narrative. Whether the waters were deep or shallow, Whether the crossing was a gradual wade or a dramatic parting, the essential truth remains. The Israelites faced an impassable barrier, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle that threatened to extinguish their hopes of freedom. The text presents this body of water, whatever its precise location, as a symbol of the limitations of human power, a representation of the forces that seek to confine and restrict us. It is a metaphor for the obstacles that stand between us and our deepest desires, the barriers that seem to block our path to liberation. And it is in this context that the miracle of the Red Sea takes on its full significance. It is not merely a display of divine power, a theatrical demonstration of God's ability to manipulate the natural world. It is a revelation of God's capacity to transform the very obstacles that threaten to destroy us, to turn the waters of chaos into a path of deliverance. The Red Sea, therefore, is not just a body of water. It is a symbol of transformation, a representation of the divine power to create a way where there seems to be no way. It is a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, even when we are trapped between the forces of oppression and the abyss of uncertainty, there is hope. There is a possibility of liberation. This biblical narrative, in its stark simplicity, speaks to the deepest longings of the human heart. It speaks to our yearning for freedom, our desire to break free from the chains that bind us. It speaks to our hope for a world where the impossible becomes possible, where the waters of chaos become the path to salvation. It reminds us that God's glory is revealed not in the absence of struggle, but in the midst of it. And it is in this revelation, this profound encounter with the divine, that we discover the true meaning of liberation. The key dramatic elements. To truly grasp the significance of the Red Sea crossing, we must move beyond the surface of the narrative and examine its underlying dramatic structure, the intricate interplay of forces that converge in this pivotal moment. The text, in its elegant economy, lays bare the essential elements of divine action and human response, revealing a profound theological tapestry. First, we encounter the unwavering divine initiative. The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward." Exodus 14:15. These words are not merely a command. They are a revelation of God's active presence, His unwavering engagement in the drama of human salvation. It is God who breaks the silence, who interrupts the human lament, who directs the course of events. This is not a passive deity, an observer from afar, but a God who intervenes, who acts, who shapes history according to His divine purpose. Here we encounter a fundamental theological truth. Salvation is not a human achievement, but a divine gift. It is God who takes the initiative, who extends His hand to rescue His people from the abyss, the Israelites in their fear. This is not a diminishment of God's sovereignty, but a testament to His respect for human freedom. God chooses to work through human beings to empower them to participate in the drama of salvation. Moses' act of obedience, his willingness to stretch out his hand over the sea, becomes a symbol of human faith, a demonstration of trust in God's promise. Third, we encounter the natural element, the strong east wind that drives back the sea. Exodus 14:21. This detail is crucial, for it reminds us that God's power is not exercised in opposition to the natural world, but through it. The wind, a force of nature, becomes an instrument of divine purpose, a tool in God's hands. This is not to suggest that the Red Sea crossing was merely a natural phenomenon, a fortuitous coincidence. Rather, it is a revelation of God's sovereignty over the natural world, His ability to harness its forces for the sake of His people. The wind, in its relentless power, becomes a symbol of God's ability to transform the very elements of creation into instruments of salvation. And fourth, we witness the supernatural control, the dividing of the waters into walls on either side. Exodus 14, 21, 22. This is the heart of the miracle, the moment where the natural order is transcended, where the impossible becomes possible. The waters, normally a symbol of chaos and destruction, become a path of deliverance, a testament to God's power to reorder creation for the sake of His people. This is not a mere display of divine magic, a theatrical spectacle designed to impress. Rather, it is a profound revelation of God's ability to overcome the very forces that threaten to destroy us. The waters, in their divided state, become a symbol of God's power to create a way where there seems to be no way, to transform the very obstacles that block our path to liberation. Here we must contrast this narrative with the ancient Near Eastern myths, where gods engage in violent battles with chaotic sea monsters. In those myths, the sea is a symbol of primordial chaos, a force that must be subdued and controlled through violence. But in the biblical narrative, we see a different picture. God does not engage in cosmic warfare. He exercises sovereign mastery. The Creator who separated the waters in Genesis 1 now separates them again for salvation. As biblical scholar John Levinson observes, this is not about destroying cosmic forces, but about reordering them for redemptive purposes. God does not obliterate the natural world. He transforms it, He redeems it, He harnesses it for the sake of His people. Nature itself becomes an instrument of liberation in the hands of its Creator. This is a profound theological insight. It reminds us that God's power is not limited to the supernatural realm. It extends to the natural world as well. He is the Lord of all creation, the master of the wind and the waves, and He uses His power not to destroy, but to save, to liberate, to redeem. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, is not just a historical event. It is a theological drama, a revelation of God's power to transform the forces of creation for the sake of His people. It is a testament to the divine initiative, the human participation, the natural elements, and the supernatural control that converge in this pivotal moment of salvation. It is a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, God can create a path through the sea, a way to freedom, a promise of redemption. The Archaeological Debate. The narrative of the Exodus, particularly the dramatic crossing of the Red Sea, stands as a monumental event in the biblical story, a pivot point where divine intervention and human destiny intertwine. Yet, as we delve into the annals of history and archaeology, we encounter a labyrinth of questions, a complex tapestry of debates that have engaged scholars for centuries. Did the Exodus, as described, truly transpire? When precisely did this epochal event unfold? And what was the scale of this migration, this mass movement of people from bondage to freedom? These questions, far from being mere academic exercises, touch upon the very heart of our understanding of the biblical narrative. They force us to confront the delicate interplay between faith and reason, between divine revelation and historical inquiry. The archaeological evidence, or its apparent absence, forms a crucial part of this exploration. The 13th century BCE, often proposed as the most likely period for the Exodus, presents a challenge. Some scholars, meticulously examining the layers of ancient settlements and the remnants of past civilizations, point to the seeming lack of direct archaeological evidence for a mass migration of the scale described in the biblical text. The absence of tangible artifacts, of widespread settlements, of clear signs of a large population movement, raises questions about the historicity of the narrative. However, we must tread carefully. mindful of the limitations of archaeological inquiry. Nomadic populations, by their very nature, tend to leave minimal archaeological footprints. Their settlements are transient, their material culture often ephemeral. The desert, with its shifting sands and harsh conditions, can erase the traces of even significant movements of people. Thus, the absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. Furthermore, we must consider the nature of the biblical text itself. It is not a historical chronicle in the modern sense, a meticulous record of events. Rather, it is a theological narrative, a story told from the perspective of faith, a testament to God's saving power. Its primary purpose is not to provide a detailed historical account, but to reveal the divine purpose, to communicate the message of liberation and redemption. In this context, the archaeological debate becomes a conversation, a dialogue between different perspectives, rather than a definitive judgment. It invites us to consider the complexities of history, the limitations of our knowledge, and the enduring power of faith. Turning to the scientific realm, we encounter another layer of inquiry, the search for natural explanations for the parting of the waters. The phenomenon of wind set down, where strong, persistent winds can temporarily drive shallow waters back, has been proposed as a possible mechanism. Computer models, simulating the effects of powerful winds on shallow bodies of water, have demonstrated how such conditions could create temporary dry land, allowing passage across lagoons or shallow seas. Such explanations, however, should not be seen as a challenge to the miraculous nature of the event. The biblical text itself acknowledges the role of a strong east wind, Exodus 14:21, suggesting that the biblical authors saw no contradiction between divine action and natural mechanisms. God, in His infinite wisdom, can work through the natural world, using its forces to achieve His purposes. The miracle of the Red Sea crossing, therefore, is not necessarily a suspension of natural laws, but a divine orchestration of them. It is a moment where God harnesses the forces of creation, bending them to His will, using them to deliver His people from bondage. The wind, the waters, the very elements of nature become instruments of divine liberation. Here we encounter a profound theological insight. God's power is not limited to the supernatural realm. He is the Lord of all creation, the master of the natural world. He can use the wind, the tides, the very forces of nature to achieve His purposes, and in doing so He reveals His sovereignty, His ability to work through the ordinary to achieve the extraordinary. The historical and scientific questions surrounding the Red Sea crossing, therefore, do not diminish its theological significance. Rather, they invite us to a deeper understanding of the narrative, a more nuanced appreciation of the interplay between faith and reason, between divine action and human experience. They remind us that the miracle of the Red Sea is not merely a historical event, but a living testament to God's enduring power, a symbol of His capacity to create a path to freedom, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Memory and meaning. We have explored the historical and scientific dimensions of the Red Sea crossing, grappling with questions of historicity, archaeological evidence, and natural explanations. Yet, to confine our understanding of this narrative to these realms alone would be to miss its profound spiritual and existential significance. The either/or framework, which demands a choice between literal historical accuracy and complete fictionalization, often proves to be a limiting lens through which to view ancient narratives. Ancient peoples, steeped in a world imbued with mythic consciousness, engaged in what scholars call mythopoeic thinking. This mode of expression transcends the modern categories of historical versus symbolic, recognizing the power of narrative to convey profound truths about the human condition, about the relationship between the divine and the human, about the very nature of reality itself. As the philosopher Paul Ricoeur eloquently observed, these narratives, born from the depths of the human imagination, create a disclosure of unprecedented worlds, an opening unto possible worlds which transcend the established limits of our actual world. They are not merely historical accounts, but windows into the soul, reflections of our deepest hopes, fears, and aspirations. The Red Sea crossing, within this framework, becomes more than just a historical event. It becomes an archetypal narrative, a story that resonates with the deepest longings of the human heart. It speaks to our universal experience of being trapped, of facing seemingly insurmountable obstacles, of yearning for liberation. It offers a vision of hope, a promise of deliverance, a reminder that even in the face of despair, there is a possibility of a way forward. What is undeniable is the profound impact this event had on the formation of Israelite identity. The Passover Seder, a ritual meticulously observed by Jewish communities throughout the world, embodies this enduring legacy. The commandment to retell the story of the Exodus to each generation, to experience it anew in every Passover meal, transcends mere historical commemoration. It is a call to remember, not as a passive act of recollection, but as an active engagement with the narrative, a reenactment of the journey from bondage to freedom. As Rabbi Jonathan Sacks eloquently writes, memory is essential to identity, and nowhere more so than in Judaism, a religion whose signal mitzvah, commandment, is remember. The Exodus, with its potent symbolism of liberation, became the cornerstone of Jewish identity, shaping their worldview, their values, and their understanding of their place in the world. But the significance of the Red Sea crossing extends far beyond the Jewish people. It speaks to the universal human experience of struggle, of suffering, of the yearning for redemption. It is a story that resonates with those who have faced oppression, who have known the sting of injustice, who have sought to break free from the chains that bind them. The Red Sea, in this sense, becomes a metaphor for the human journey itself, a reflection of our ongoing struggle against the forces of despair, against the limitations that threaten to confine us. It is a reminder that even when we are trapped, even when we face seemingly insurmountable obstacles, there is a possibility of liberation. There is a way forward. There is hope. And this hope, this enduring message of liberation, is the true legacy of the Red Sea crossing. It is a story that continues to inspire and challenge us, a reminder that the human spirit, when confronted with adversity, can rise above its limitations, can find the strength to overcome, can discover a path to freedom. The Red Sea, therefore, is not merely a historical event, nor simply a mythological tale. It is a living testament to the enduring power of hope, a reflection of the human capacity for resilience, a reminder that, even in the darkest of times, there is a possibility of redemption, a promise of a new beginning. This is the true miracle of the Red Sea, not just the parting of the waters, but the enduring power of this narrative to inspire and transform, to offer hope and solace to those who seek liberation, to remind us that even in the face of the unknown, even when the path forward seems obscured, there is always the possibility of a way through. Divine Warrior, Power over Chaos. The narrative of the Red Sea crossing culminates in a triumphant hymn, the Song of Moses, a poetic outpouring of gratitude and awe that reverberates through the ages. Within this sacred text, we encounter a powerful and potentially unsettling image: God as a divine warrior. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he cast into the sea. Exodus 15:03-04 may strike a discordant note with modern sensibilities. We, accustomed to a God of peace and compassion, may struggle to reconcile this image of divine violence with our understanding of divine love. Yet, to truly grasp the theological significance of this imagery, we must immerse ourselves in the ancient context to understand the symbolic language of a culture far removed from our own. In the ancient Near East, the warrior was not merely a figure of brute force, but a symbol of justice, a protector of the vulnerable, a defender of the oppressed. The warrior god, therefore, is not a deity driven by aggression or conquest, but a god who wields power to establish justice, to right the wrongs of oppression, to liberate the enslaved. The imagery of the divine warrior, therefore, is not a celebration of violence, but a proclamation of God's unwavering commitment to justice. It is a declaration that God will not stand idly by in the face of human suffering, that he will intervene to break the chains of oppression, to deliver the downtrodden from the hands of their oppressors. The Red Sea crossing in this context becomes a cosmic battle, a struggle between the forces of liberation and the forces of oppression. Pharaoh, with his chariots and his army, represents the epitome of human tyranny, the embodiment of the forces that seek to enslave and exploit. God, in his role as divine warrior, confronts this tyranny, shattering its power, liberating his people from its grasp. But the theological significance of the Red Sea crossing extends beyond the imagery of the divine warrior. Theologians have observed profound connections between this event and the creation account in Genesis 1, revealing a deeper understanding of God's relationship with creation and his purpose for humanity. In both narratives, we encounter the separation of waters, a symbolic act of creation that establishes order from chaos. In Genesis, God separates the waters above from the waters below, creating a space for life to flourish. In Exodus, God separates the waters of the Red Sea, creating a path for his people to escape from bondage. This parallelism is not merely coincidental. It reveals a profound theological truth. The God who created the world, the God who brought order from chaos, is the same God who liberates his people from oppression. The power that brought forth life from the formless void is the same power that breaks the chains of slavery. As biblical scholar Walter Brueggemann eloquently notes, the power that created the world is the same power that liberates from oppression. The God who spoke the universe into existence, the God who said, "Let there be," is the same God who said, "Let my people go." This connection between creation and liberation reveals a fundamental truth about God's character. He is not merely a creator who stands apart from his creation, but a God who actively engages with his world, who intervenes in human history, who works to bring about justice and liberation. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, is not merely a historical event, but a cosmic act of creation, a reenactment of the divine power that brought forth life from chaos. It is a testament to God's ability to transform the forces of destruction into instruments of salvation, to create a path to freedom where there seems to be no way. The waters of the Red Sea, which threaten to engulf the Israelites, become a symbol of the chaotic forces that seek to destroy us, the forces of oppression, injustice, and despair. God, in his role as divine warrior and creator, reorders these chaotic waters, transforming them into a path of liberation, a symbol of hope and redemption, And in this act of divine intervention, we witness the profound truth that God's power is not limited to the creation of the universe. He is also the Lord of history, the God who acts in the affairs of humanity, the God who brings about justice and liberation. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, is a testament to God's unwavering commitment to his people, a symbol of his enduring power to transform the forces of chaos into instruments of salvation. It is a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, even when we are trapped between the forces of oppression and the abyss of despair, there is hope, there is a path to freedom, there is a God who acts in history, who brings about justice, who liberates the oppressed. From liberation to covenant, the miraculous crossing of the Red Sea, while a pivotal moment of divine intervention, marks not the culmination of the Israelites' journey, but rather its beginning. Liberation, as profound as it may be, is not an end in itself. It is a threshold, a passage into a new reality, a call to a deeper relationship with the divine. The freed slaves, having escaped the bondage of Egypt, now face the daunting task of learning to live as a free people, of forging a new identity, of building a society that reflects their newfound freedom. This transition from bondage to liberation, from oppression to covenant, is a pivotal theme, not only in the biblical narrative, but also in the human experience as a whole. The great theologian Augustine, reflecting on the profound spiritual significance of the Exodus narrative, saw in the crossing of the Red Sea a powerful metaphor for the Christian journey of salvation. The crossing of the Red Sea, he wrote, signifies baptism. The journey through the wilderness signifies the present life of trial. The promised land signifies eternal happiness. Augustine's interpretation highlights the enduring relevance of the Exodus narrative. It speaks not only to the historical experience of the Israelites, but also to the inner spiritual journey of every human being. It speaks to our longing for liberation from the bonds of sin, from the forces that enslave us to our own desires, to the powers that hold us captive to fear and despair. Baptism, the sacrament of Christian initiation, becomes a symbolic reenactment of the Red Sea crossing, an immersion into the waters of death and rebirth. Just as the Israelites passed through the waters of the sea, so too the believer, through the waters of baptism, is symbolically buried with Christ and raised to new life. The wilderness journey, with its trials and temptations, mirrors the challenges we face in our daily lives, the struggles against sin, the temptations that threaten to derail us from the path of righteousness. It is a time of testing, a time of growth, a time of learning to rely on God's grace in the face of adversity. And finally, the promised land, that elusive destination of ultimate fulfillment, represents the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey, the eternal happiness that awaits those who persevere in faith. It is a vision of a future where all tears are wiped away, where suffering is overcome, where true and lasting joy is finally found. This pattern, crisis, divine intervention, transformation, and new identity, resonates throughout human history and across diverse religious traditions. From the Hindu concepts of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and moksha, the liberation from this cycle, to the Buddhist notions of awakening and enlightenment, we find recurring themes of passage, of transformation, of a journey from bondage to liberation. Water in particular emerges as a powerful and recurring symbol in these traditions. It is a symbol of both death and rebirth, of destruction and regeneration. In many spiritual traditions, immersion in water symbolizes a process of purification, a washing away of the old, a preparation for a new beginning. The Red Sea crossing, with its powerful imagery of the waters parting, becomes a potent symbol of this universal human experience. It speaks to our deepest longings for transformation, for liberation from the limitations that bind us, for a new life, a life of meaning and purpose. And so the story of the Exodus, far from being a mere historical account, becomes a profound spiritual allegory, a reflection of the human journey, a testament to the enduring power of hope. It is a reminder that even when we are trapped, even when we face seemingly insurmountable obstacles, there is a possibility of liberation, a path to a new life, a chance to emerge from the waters of despair and into the light of a new dawn. Typological readings. The Red Sea as baptism. The narrative of the Red Sea crossing, far from remaining confined to the historical context of ancient Israel, resonated deeply within the nascent Christian community. Early Christians, imbued with a profound sense of continuity between the Old and New Testaments, saw in this dramatic event a powerful prefigurement, a type of the transformative power of baptism. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, draws a direct parallel between the Israelites' passage through the sea and the Christian sacrament of baptism. Our ancestors were all under the cloud and all passed through the sea, and all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. 1 Corinthians 10:1-2. These words are not merely a historical observation, they are a theological declaration, a recognition of the profound spiritual significance of the Red Sea crossing. Paul's interpretation reveals a key principle of typological reading, the recognition of patterns and correspondences between events in the Old Testament and the person and work of Christ in the New Testament. The Red Sea, in this context, becomes a symbolic representation of the waters of baptism, a threshold through which believers pass from death to life, from bondage to freedom. The waters that destroyed the forces of bondage, the chariots of Pharaoh, became the very means of passage into a new life, a life of freedom and communion with God. This paradox, this transformation of destructive forces into instruments of salvation, lies at the heart of the Christian understanding of baptism. This typological reading profoundly shaped the early church's understanding of both baptism and salvation history. The Church Fathers, those luminous figures who shaped the intellectual and spiritual foundations of Christianity, saw in the Red Sea waters a powerful symbol of the dual nature of baptism, death to sin and birth to righteousness. The waters of the Red Sea, like the waters of baptism, became a liminal space, a place of transition, a threshold between the old life and the new. They represent the death of the old self, the relinquishing of the chains of sin, the burial of the ego that seeks to control and dominate. But they also represent the birth of the new self, the emergence of a new creation, the rising with Christ into a life of grace and freedom. The waters that engulf the old self become the womb from which the new self emerges, cleansed and renewed. Ambrose of Milan, a 4th century bishop and theologian, eloquently articulated this understanding of baptism in his instructions to newly baptized Christians. You were asked, "Do you believe in God the Father Almighty?" You said, "I believe," and you were immersed. That is, you were buried. You were asked again, "Do you believe in our Lord Jesus Christ and in his cross?" You said, "I believe," and you were immersed. Therefore you were buried with Christ. For whoever is buried with Christ rises again with Christ. Ambrose's words capture the profound mystery of baptism, the symbolic reenactment of Christ's death and resurrection. The immersion into the waters of baptism becomes a symbolic burial with Christ, a sharing in his death, a relinquishing of the old life. and the emergence from the waters becomes a symbolic resurrection with Christ, a sharing in his new life, a rising into the light of grace. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, becomes a powerful symbol of this transformative journey, a journey from death to life, from bondage to freedom, from darkness to light. It is a reminder that the waters that threaten to destroy us can, through the power of God's grace, become the very means of our salvation. This typological reading of the Red Sea crossing extends beyond the individual experience of baptism. It also illuminates the broader sweep of salvation history, revealing a pattern of divine intervention, of liberation, of new creation that runs throughout the biblical narrative. The Red Sea crossing, in this context, becomes a microcosm of God's saving work in history, a foreshadowing of the ultimate liberation brought about by Christ's death and resurrection. It is a reminder that God's power to create a path through the sea, to transform the forces of destruction into instruments of salvation, is a power that transcends time and space, a power that continues to work in the lives of believers today. Christ as the new Exodus. The gospel narratives are replete with echoes of the Exodus, weaving the story of Israel's liberation into the very fabric of Jesus' life and ministry. This is not mere historical coincidence, but a deliberate theological tapestry, a tapestry that reveals Jesus as the true fulfillment of the ancient promises, the culmination of God's saving plan for humanity. Luke, in his gospel, explicitly connects Jesus' impending crucifixion with the language of Exodus. He describes Jesus' journey to Jerusalem as his exodus, Luke 9:31, foreshadowing the ultimate sacrifice that would bring about salvation for all humanity. The Last Supper itself, with its ritual of bread and wine, echoes the Passover meal, the commemoration of Israel's deliverance from Egyptian bondage. Jesus, in sharing bread and wine with his disciples, inaugurates a new covenant, a new Passover, a new liberation from the bondage of sin and death. The darkness that descended upon the land during the crucifixion, a supernatural event that shrouded the earth in eerie gloom, evokes the plagues that afflicted Egypt, a reminder of the divine judgment that fell upon the forces of oppression. And finally, the resurrection of Jesus, his triumphant emergence from the tomb, stands as the ultimate fulfillment of the Exodus narrative. Just as the Israelites, after their miraculous passage through the sea, entered into a new life of freedom, so too Jesus, having conquered death, ushers his followers into a new life of eternal communion with God. The resurrection, therefore, becomes the definitive crossing of the sea, the ultimate passage from death to life. It is a moment of profound transformation, a moment when the power of sin and death is finally broken, when humanity is reconciled with its Creator. Swiss theologian Karl Barth, with his characteristic insight, recognized Jesus as the true fulfillment of Israel's journey. Jesus, Barth wrote, is the one who accomplishes the real exodus, who opens the real entrance into the promised land. For Barth, the Exodus narrative, with its powerful symbolism of liberation, finds its ultimate fulfillment in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. It is in Christ and through Christ that the true liberation, the true Exodus, is achieved. Pope Benedict XVI, in his profound theological reflections, echoed this understanding. The Exodus from Egypt, he wrote, is not considered a past event, but the definition of what it means to be a Jew. The Christian faith has grown out of this same identification. Easter, the Christian Passover, is properly understood only in relation to the Jewish one. For Benedict, the Exodus narrative is not merely a historical event. It is a foundational myth, a defining narrative that shapes the identity of both Jews and Christians. The Christian faith, rooted in the Jewish tradition, finds its ultimate expression in the Paschal mystery, the death and resurrection of Christ, which fulfills and surpasses the ancient Exodus. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, becomes a prophetic foreshadowing of the ultimate act of liberation, the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. It is a reminder that God's saving power, first revealed in the deliverance of Israel from Egyptian bondage, finds its ultimate expression in the death and resurrection of his Son. And so, the story of the Exodus, with its potent symbolism of liberation, continues to resonate throughout Christian history. It is a reminder that the journey from bondage to freedom, from death to life, is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process, a lifelong pilgrimage. It is a call to embrace the transformative power of Christ, to allow Him to lead us through the waters of our own personal exodus, to guide us towards the promised land of eternal life. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, becomes more than just a historical event. It becomes a spiritual archetype, a profound reflection of the human journey, a testament to the enduring power of God's love and grace to liberate us from the chains of sin and death and to lead us into the promised land of eternal life. The Exodus paradigm in liberation movements. The narrative of the Red Sea crossing, far from being confined to the ancient world, has echoed powerfully through the corridors of modern history, finding profound resonance in the struggles for liberation that have shaped the 20th and 21st centuries. In particular, the imagery of the Exodus has become a potent symbol of hope and resistance for those seeking to break free from the chains of oppression. The spirituals of enslaved African Americans, those poignant expressions of faith and longing, are imbued with the imagery of the Exodus. Songs like "Go Down, Moses," with its powerful call to "Let my people go," and "Wade in the water," with its coded instructions for escape, transformed the biblical narrative into a language of resistance, a secret code of hope in the face of unimaginable suffering. These spirituals, born from the depths of human pain, transcended their immediate context, becoming anthems of liberation, powerful reminders that God's promise of deliverance extended to all who were oppressed. The Red Sea in these songs became a symbol of the perilous journey to freedom, a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, there was a possibility of hope, a promise of a new life. Martin Luther King Jr., the iconic leader of the American Civil Rights Movement, explicitly framed the struggle for racial equality in the language of the Exodus. He drew parallels between the plight of African Americans and the bondage of the Israelites, seeing in the struggle for civil rights a modern-day reenactment of the ancient journey from slavery to freedom. "Before the victory is won," King declared, "some, like Moses, will not get to see the fulfillment of their dreams, but the promised land will be reached." These words, spoken with prophetic conviction, echoed the hope and determination of the Israelites as they faced the daunting challenges of their wilderness journey. The Promised Land for King represented not merely a geographical location, but a vision of a just and equitable society, a future where all people would be treated with dignity and respect. Gustavo Gutierrez, the father of Latin American liberation theology, further illuminated the enduring relevance of the Exodus narrative for contemporary struggles. He saw in the liberation of Israel a fundamental paradigm for understanding God's action in history, a model for how God intervenes in the lives of the oppressed. The liberation of Israel, Gutierrez argued, is a political action. It is the breaking away from a situation of despoliation and misery and the beginning of the construction of a just and fraternal society. For Gutierrez, the Exodus was not merely a spiritual event, but a concrete historical act of liberation, a testament to God's commitment to justice and his active involvement in the struggles of the marginalized. He emphasized that the God who parted the waters of the Red Sea for the enslaved Israelites remains active in the contemporary world, working through human agents to bring about justice and liberation. The Exodus, for Gutierrez, was not a relic of the past, but a living paradigm, a call to action for all who seek to build a more just and equitable world. The Red Sea crossing, in this context, becomes a symbol of the transformative power of God's grace, a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, there is a possibility of liberation. It is a testament to the enduring power of hope, a beacon of light for those who struggle against oppression, a call to action for all who seek to build a world where justice and peace prevail. This modern resonance of the Exodus narrative extends beyond the specific contexts of the civil rights movement and Latin American liberation theology. It speaks to the universal human yearning for freedom, the deep-seated desire to break free from the chains of oppression, to create a world where all people are treated with dignity and respect. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, remains a potent symbol of hope and resistance, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, even when we are trapped between the forces of oppression and the abyss of despair, there is a possibility of liberation, a promise of a new beginning. It is a testament to the enduring power of God's grace, a call to action for all who seek to build a more just and equitable world. Psychological and spiritual applications. The Red Sea narrative, far from being confined to the realm of political liberation or ancient history, resonates deeply within the inner landscape of the human psyche. It speaks to the universal experience of personal transformation, the journey from bondage to freedom that each of us must undertake. Psychologists, from the pioneering Carl Jung to the insightful James Hillman, have recognized in this narrative a potent archetype, a pattern that reflects the individual's journey through crisis toward greater integration. The Red Sea in this context becomes a symbol of the turbulent waters of the unconscious, the chaotic depths of our own inner lives. The journey through these waters represents the process of confronting our shadow selves, the hidden aspects of our personalities that we often repress or deny. It is a journey of facing our fears, our limitations, our inner demons, the forces that seek to hold us captive, to keep us bound to our old patterns of behavior. The crossing of the Red Sea, therefore, becomes a symbol of the transformative power of facing our inner chaos, of allowing ourselves to be immersed in the depths of our own vulnerability, trusting that we will emerge on the other side, cleansed and renewed. Addiction recovery programs, in their wisdom, frequently invoke the language of crossing over from bondage to freedom. They recognize that addiction, in its essence, is a form of slavery, a captivity to destructive patterns of behavior. The journey to recovery, therefore, becomes a personal exodus, a passage through the turbulent waters of withdrawal and rehabilitation, a journey toward a new life of sobriety and wholeness. The Red Sea, for those struggling with addiction, becomes a symbol of the perilous journey toward recovery, a reminder that even in the midst of intense suffering, there is a possibility of liberation. The crossing over represents the transformative power of surrender, the willingness to relinquish control, to trust in a higher power, to allow oneself to be carried through the storm. Contemporary spiritual writer Henry Nouwen, with his characteristic sensitivity, observed that each human being must pass through waters of transformation. Each human being, he wrote, has a sea to cross, a desert to tread, a mountain to climb. Our frailty never excuses us from beginning the journey. Our weakness never proves the journey impossible. Our stumbling never prevents us from making the crossing. We move forward in trust, even when we have little light and much darkness. Owen's words capture the universal nature of the human journey, the reality that each of us in our own way must face our own Red Seas, our own moments of crisis, our own challenges to overcome. The sea, the desert, the mountain, these are not merely external obstacles, but symbols of the inner struggles that we all must face. The Red Sea in this context becomes a symbol of the fear and uncertainty that accompany any significant transition, any movement from the familiar to the unknown. It represents the moments when we feel trapped, when we feel as though we are caught between the forces of our past and the uncertainty of our future. Yet, Nouwen reminds us that our frailty is not an excuse to remain stagnant, that our weakness does not render the journey impossible. He calls us to move forward in trust, even when we feel lost in darkness. This call to trust, this willingness to step into the unknown, is the essence of the Red Sea crossing. It is a reminder that even when we feel overwhelmed by the forces that threaten to engulf us, there is a possibility of a way forward, a path through the sea. The Red Sea, therefore, becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the midst of our deepest struggles, even when we feel as though we are trapped between the forces of our past and the uncertainty of our future, there is a possibility of transformation, a promise of a new beginning. It is a call to embrace the transformative power of grace, to allow ourselves to be carried through the storm, to trust that even in the midst of darkness, there is a light that will lead us home. The paradox of divine action and human participation. The narrative of the Red Sea crossing, in its elegant simplicity, presents us with one of the most profound and enduring paradoxes of the spiritual life: the interplay between divine action and human participation. It is a paradox that challenges our understanding of God's sovereignty and human responsibility, a paradox that speaks to the very heart of the relationship between the Creator and the created. God, in the midst of the Israelites' desperate situation, says to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward," Exodus 14:15. This divine command, seemingly paradoxical, reveals a crucial truth. God's intervention does not negate the need for human action. The Israelites, trapped between the advancing Egyptian army and the impassable sea, cry out to God in their fear and desperation. But God's response is not merely to provide a miraculous escape, it is to call them to action. He instructs them to move forward, to step into the unknown, to trust in His promise, even when the path ahead seems impossible. The waters do not part until Moses stretches out his hand. This simple act of obedience, this gesture of faith, is essential to the unfolding of the miracle. God does not act independently of human agency. He works through human beings, empowering them to participate in His saving work, and the people are not delivered until they walk through the parted waters. The miracle is not merely a spectacle to be observed from a safe distance. It is an invitation to engage, to participate, to move forward in faith, even when the way ahead is uncertain. This dynamic interplay between divine action and human participation challenges two theological extremes that have often plagued human thought. On one hand, there is what philosophers call quietism, the passive expectation that God will do everything, that human beings have no role to play in their own salvation. Quietism leads to inaction, to a paralysis of the will, to a denial of human responsibility. It ignores the call to active engagement, the invitation to participate in the ongoing work of God's kingdom. On the other hand, there is Pelagianism, The belief that human effort alone can achieve salvation, that we can earn God's favor through our own works without any need for divine grace. Pelagianism leads to arrogance, to a self-reliance that denies our dependence on God, to a belief that we can achieve salvation through our own efforts without any need for divine assistance. The Red Sea narrative strikes a delicate balance between these two extremes. It affirms the absolute necessity of divine grace, the waters part by divine power, a clear demonstration that salvation is ultimately God's work. But it also affirms the essential role of human agency. Human feet must walk the path, human hands must reach out in obedience, human hearts must choose to trust in God's promise. As Augustine, that great theologian of grace, so eloquently wrote, "God created us without us, but He did not will to save us without us." This profound statement captures the essence of the paradox. God's grace is the foundation of our salvation. This paradox of divine action and human participation is not always easy to reconcile. It challenges our desire for control, our need for certainty, our tendency to want to define and categorize everything in neat, logical terms. But it is precisely in this paradox, in this tension between God's sovereignty and human responsibility, that we find the true essence of faith. It is in the willingness to trust in God's power, even as we step out in obedience, that we discover the transformative power of God's grace. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, remains a powerful reminder that we are not passive spectators in the drama of our own salvation. We are called to be active participants, to walk the path that God has opened for us, to trust in His power even as we move forward in faith. It is in this dynamic interplay, this dance between divine action and human participation, that we discover the true meaning of liberation. Standing at today's impossible waters, the narrative of the Red Sea crossing, with its potent symbolism of liberation and transformation, is not confined to the realm of ancient history or theological discourse. It resonates deeply within the human experience, echoing in the personal journeys of individuals as they navigate the complexities of life. Each of us, at some point, stands before our own Red Sea moments, situations where the path forward seems fraught with uncertainty, the consequences of retreat seem unbearable, and the very ground beneath our feet appears to be shifting. These moments can be as profound and transformative as the Israelites' encounter with the impassable sea. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, a career change, a health crisis, or a breakdown in a relationship, these moments challenge us to confront our deepest fears, to step into the unknown, and to trust in a power greater than ourselves. They force us to confront our own limitations, to acknowledge our need for help, and to surrender to a force beyond our own control. Just as the Israelites were called to trust in God's promise, even when the path ahead seemed impossible, so too are we called to trust in our own inner strength, in the support of loved ones, and in the mysterious workings of the universe. We are called to take that first step, to venture into the unknown, even when fear and uncertainty threaten to paralyze us. The Red Sea crossing in this context becomes a metaphor for the human journey itself, a reminder that the path to growth and transformation often lies through the turbulent waters of uncertainty and fear. It is a call to embrace the paradox of surrender and agency, to trust in a power greater than ourselves, while simultaneously taking responsibility for our own lives. The philosopher-theologian Paul Tillich, in his profound exploration of the human condition, coined the term, the courage to be. He recognized that the human experience is inherently fraught with anxiety, with the awareness of our own finitude, with the ever-present possibility of meaninglessness. Tillich argued that true courage does not lie in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to face our fears, to confront the abyss of meaninglessness, and to embrace the uncertainty of existence. It is the courage to step into the unknown, to trust in the possibility of meaning and purpose, even when we cannot fully comprehend the path ahead. In the context of the Red Sea crossing, Tillich's courage to be becomes a call to embrace the unknown, to step into the waters of uncertainty, trusting that even in the midst of chaos, there is a possibility of a way forward. It is a recognition that the path to liberation, to wholeness, to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world, often lies through the turbulent waters of our own personal Red Seas. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, becomes a powerful symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, even when the path forward seems obscured, there is always the possibility of a way through. It is a call to embrace the paradox of surrender and agency, to trust in the power of grace, and to step into the unknown with courage and conviction as we stand at the edge of our own Red Seas, facing the challenges and uncertainties of our own lives. Let us remember the Israelites, their courage, their faith, and their willingness to step into the unknown. Let us remember the promise of liberation, the possibility of transformation, and the enduring power of hope. Let us, like Moses, stretch out our hands in faith, trusting that even in the midst of the storm there is a way forward, a path to a deeper understanding of ourselves, a path to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. For in the depths of our own Red Seas we may discover not only our own liberation, but also the profound truth that we are not alone on this journey. We are accompanied by a power greater than ourselves, a power that has promised to be with us always, a power that will guide us through the storm and lead us to the promised land. The Song at the Shore. The Exodus narrative does not conclude with a dry analytical dissection of the miracle, nor with a philosophical treatise on the nature of divine intervention. It culminates in something far more profound, something that speaks to the very heart of the human spirit: song. It erupts in a spontaneous outpouring of gratitude and wonder, a celebration of deliverance that transcends the limitations of language. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Lord: I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. Exodus 15, verse 1 through 1. These words, born from the depths of human experience, capture the essence of liberation. The joy of escaping bondage, the awe at witnessing the power of God. And Miriam, the prophetess, that powerful figure of feminine leadership, leads the women in dance, her tambourine echoing the rhythm of their hearts, the rhythm of their newfound freedom. The dance, the song, the music, these are not mere embellishments. They are the very language of the soul, the expression of a joy that transcends words. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, is not merely a historical event to be analyzed, but a moment of profound transformation to be celebrated, a miracle to be embraced with gratitude and wonder. It is a reminder that our response to moments of deliverance should not be primarily intellectual, but deeply embodied, a recognition of the power of grace, a surrender to the mystery of the divine. The Jewish philosopher Abraham Joshua Heschel, with his profound understanding of the human spirit, observed that wonder rather than doubt is the root of all knowledge. This insight speaks directly to the heart of the Red Sea narrative. The Israelites, standing on the shore, witnessing the miracle of their deliverance, did not respond with skepticism or intellectual analysis. They responded with wonder, with awe, with a sense of profound gratitude for the inexplicable power that had saved them. Heschel's words challenge our modern tendency to prioritize doubt over wonder, to demand rational explanations for everything, to reduce the mysteries of life to manageable categories. It reminds us that true knowledge, true understanding, begins not with skepticism, but with a willingness to stand in awe before the inexplicable, to embrace the mystery, to recognize the limits of our own understanding, the ability to celebrate liberation without fully comprehending it, to stand in awe before the mystery of divine grace. This, Heschel suggests, is the essence of spiritual wisdom. It is the ability to surrender to the unknown, to trust in a power greater than ourselves, to recognize that there are forces at work in the universe that transcend our ability to explain. The camera pulls back, expanding our view from the ancient shores of the Red Sea to the contemporary world, revealing the diverse landscapes of human experience. We see people from all walks of life, standing at the edge of various barriers and challenges, facing their own Red Sea moments. We see reconciliations between enemies, the healing of devastating illnesses, communities rebuilding after disasters, moments of transformation, moments of hope, moments that echo the ancient story of deliverance. The Red Sea narrative endures, not because it provides a neat and tidy explanation for the mysteries of life, but because it speaks to the universal human experience of struggle and liberation. It whispers across millennia that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, there is a possibility of a way forward. It reminds us that what seems an impassable barrier may become the very path to liberation, that the waters may yet part, that the power of grace can transform the forces of destruction into instruments of salvation. And it reminds us that both miracle and human courage meet at the shoreline of transformation, that our response to moments of deliverance should be one of both gratitude and action, a willingness to celebrate the power of grace and a commitment to walk the path that has been opened before us. The Red Sea crossing, therefore, is not merely a story of the past. It is a living paradigm, a testament to the enduring power of hope, a call to embrace the transformative power of grace, and a reminder that even in the midst of our deepest struggles, we are not alone. We are accompanied by a power greater than ourselves, a power that will guide us through the storm and lead us to the promised land. Thank you for accompanying us on this profound exploration of the Red Sea crossing, a story that resonates with the depths of human experience and the heights of divine grace. If this journey into the heart of liberation and transformation has stirred your spirit, we invite you to join the Hope in God community. Let us stand together at the shorelines of our own lives, facing our own Red Sea moments with courage and faith. Subscribe for more reflections on the enduring power of hope. Share your own stories of encountering grace in the midst of adversity, and let us continue this shared pilgrimage, discovering the miraculous paths that open before us and celebrating the divine liberation that awaits. Together, we can find hope in every step, trusting that even when the waters seem impassable, a way will be made.